Hello everyone, Mayor Albanese here, and I'm joined today with former Captain William Duffy. And Bill?
Yes, hello Mayor.
Hello. I'm so glad we could come out and talk about the Fallen Heroes project we're working on. And Bill was the one that came to me and talked about some of the projects he's been working on throughout the state of New Jersey. And many of you may know Captain Bill Duffy. I'm calling him Captain Bill Duffy. He was on the police department for, what, 28 years?
72 to 2000.
72 to 2000. And during that time frame, I got to know him from being involved with the library and just being in town here, because he did a fabulous job. A plethora of knowledge was gained through all the research that he did on our fallen heroes. And it was amazing. He gave many presentations at our library about each of the individuals, had slides of all the documentation that was gathered, not only locally, but throughout the United States.
Yep.
And he's going to talk about that in a minute. But it was just amazing. I'm so glad that we have videos, and we'll be playing them on our TV station here. So I'm going to ask Bill to talk about, he came to visit me and to talk about this project. Bill, why don't you tell us about the project?
I came on the police department in 1972, and after graduating the police academy, they would put you with a training officer for 6 months, and you wouldn't go on your own in the patrol car. So this was October, November of 1972. I was with Ray Exifo, he's my training officer, and I assigned to the midnight shift. And as we're going around the town, I see these 5-point gold stars on some of the street signs in Clark. I says, Ray, what is that? And it was Joseph Street off of Broadway. He says, I believe, Duff, they're dedicated to guys from Clark who died in World War II. And we have 12 fallen heroes from Clark in World War II, but not all of them had streets named after them. But that particular Joseph Street off of Broadway was for Joey Poduzniak and Joseph Witkowski. And so I've always had an interest in American history, military history. I have a quote, I came home, I was Army 68 to 71. They did not come home. Mm-hmm. From the Revolutionary War until present day Iraq, Afghanistan, and Syria, 1.5 million American veterans have not come home. A little under half of that 1.5 million is 700,000 from the Civil War, the American Civil War, about 350 each side. World War II, 407,000 did not come home. So since that time, we were noticing the street signs with the gold stars, I done research on all the Clark fallen heroes. So I joined the PBA Color Guard, and on Memorial Day and Veterans Day, we would come to the War Memorial and do the services. And this is the third place this monument has been in the township of Clark. It started out on the City Hall front lawn where police headquarters is now. It was over on Broadway by the firehouse. And in 1988, they moved it to the front lawn of ALJ High School. So hopefully the kids coming out that front door would notice this, and they may walk up to it. So during the Veterans Day services and Memorial Day services, I would walk up to the monument and ask the old guys from World War II, who's Bianco, who's Bitsko, who's Klaus, how did they die, what branch of the service were they in, where did they live in Clark? No one had the answers. So I went to the Clark Library. You think maybe I had a file on them? No files. What do I do now? Elizabeth Public Library. The Elizabeth Daily Journal was a county newspaper published in Elizabeth, and they had all on microfilm. And I knew if I started on December the 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor Day, until August 15th, 1945, VJ Day, Victory over Japan, I'm going to find those 12 guys. And I did. But
Amazing.
my problem is I start with page 1, and I love history so much, I would read all the pages. And I would finally get to them. So then once I have their obituaries in the paper, they would have a family member, a wife, a sister, a brother, mother and father, and I would go to the house and knock on the door. And
Excellent.
I went with the police uniform on because the badge and the gun and the radio opens doors. Mm-hmm. So you knock on the door, hi, I'm Bill Duffy, I'm from Clark, I'm doing research. Are you married? Were you married to Edward J. Mikowski? They look at you. What are you talking about? But the uniform helps. Yeah, come on in. So I would sit down with the families, I'd interview them, and especially the World War II families, I would ask them, where's the shoebox? Shoebox? My father did the same thing. Shoeboxes are great packages to put stuff in, My father had a shoebox in the hallway closet with his deed to the house, insurance papers, stuff like that. So Ann Mikowski says, yeah, I got a shoebox in my closet. And that's where all the photographs are, telegrams home, things of that nature. And I would make copies of that, and I would do all the research on the Clark Fallen Heroes. This is the Clark World War II War Memorial. In World War II, there was the Clark American Victory Club. It was Clark citizens, men and women, an organization. They did victory gardens in their backyard. They did vegetables and fruit. They made bandages for the Red Cross to send overseas to tend to our wounded sailors and soldiers.
Now, did you gather that information from the research that you did?
Right, and I was interviewing one of the original women, Sophie Jasek, who was on the committee during World War II. And I interviewed her, and she gave me a lot of wealth of information. So in 1947, they had funds to erect the War Memorial. How they did it back then, I don't know. How did they get to know about the 12? But anyway, they wound up with 12 individuals from World War II. Their families were living in Clark in 1947, and their names were put on to the War Memorial. In the 1970s, they added the Vietnam guys, Caspiel, Winters, Savell, and Hartman. I had no say in the matter back then. I would not have done that. I would have gave them their own separate memorial, because you're taking away from the World War II guys and you're taking away from them. But we're going to correct that with this project. Benny Bianco lived on Lincoln Boulevard, died at the Naval Battle of Guadalcanal on November 13, 1942. Also, John L. Ruddy died on the same day at the same battle with Benny Bianco.
Wow.
Bianco was on the Monson and Ruddy was on the Juno. I determined through my research that Bianco was Clark's first World War II fallen hero. He died at approximately 3 a.m. in the morning, and Ruddy died at approximately 11 a.m. in the morning. Charles Bitsko, he died on a troop transport ship in the Pacific on the way to a combat zone. Paul Klaus died in the Philippine Islands while coming to the aid of a wounded soldier. Melvin Graves died at the Battle of the Bulge, January 1945. Alvin Grossman was a pilot, had just received his wings, and died in a training accident in Arizona. Eugene Hutchinson was a torpedoman's mate on a submarine and hit a Japanese mine off Hokkaido Island, northern Japan. Joseph D. Poduzniak also died at the Battle of the Bulge in December of 1944. John L. Ruddy, I already talked about him. Martin Schmidt died in Germany in November 1944. And Joseph Wachowski landed at D-Day, June 6, 1944, and made it into July of 1944, where he was killed by hostile German forces. Vietnam, Kenny Caspiel died in Vietnam, hostile action. John P. Winters, United States Marine Corps, he died by hostile action. Robert L. Savell was a helicopter pilot, died at Quezon, 1968. And Richard Hartman was a pilot in the Navy. He left the USS Oriskany for a bombing mission over North Vietnam. He was struck by anti-aircraft fire. He made it, parachuted to the ground, and later died in captivity. In 1995, Hyatt Roller Bearing on Raritan Road was sold by General Motors and turned into a 9-hole golf course. On their property was gigantic boulders that might have come down from Canada 100,000 years ago during the Ice Age. So I had in mind to take the names of the Vietnam guys off and put them on their own memorial on a bronze plaque. And I also had research for Corporal Bullman, who died in the Civil War in 1864, and John Miller, who died in World War I in 1918. I said, this is a great thing. I get 3 boulders. I can put the Vietnam guys on one. I can put Miller and John Wilkes from the Cold War. And if there's any future fallen heroes, I can put them on the older boulder. And yes, during my research, and 2 more Clark fallen heroes did pass away, one in Iraq and one in Afghanistan. So I wrote to General Motors in Detroit. They agreed to donate the 3 boulders. They were brought over here. And that's what, 1995? And it's been 30 years I've been getting this project done. So my idea is to put a brass plaque over the Vietnam section, put their names into the brass plaque so it stands out. On this first boulder right here, I would like to put Corporal James Bullman, who died in the Civil War at Cold Harbor on June 1st, 1864, with 7,000 other Union troops. On the boulder in the back over here, I would like to put John Miller from World War I and John Wilkes from the Cold War, big brass plaque, and put it on the boulder. This plaque over here, what I'd like to do is put a big brass plaque into that boulder And on there would be James Harvey, who got killed in Afghanistan, and Stephen Benish, who was killed in Iraq. And so I approached the mayor this recently, and is it possible we can do a fundraising project? Can the town help us with this? And we could rededicate this for Memorial Day 2025. And it'd be a great event. All our fallen heroes are mentioned, and that's what I'd like to do.
Wonderful, wonderful. Recently I recorded a brief snippet on our Channel 36 talking about the project, but I think this was excellent to hear all about the history of the monuments and what we foresee in the future building. And we're hoping to get this done by Memorial Day this year so that we can celebrate the new monuments.
Your cutoff date would be like April 1st for the donations?
Yes, we're hoping to get all the donations in by April 1st because we have a lead time for how long it takes to make the plaques, etc.
And in addition to the plaques, which is quite costly, I want to put a brochure together of all the fallen heroes, a little bio on each one with their photographs, and we could pass them out to all the people who attend the Memorial Day service this year.
I just want to mention that if you're interested in donating, and first of all, let me thank all those who have donated already. We're really overwhelmed by the tremendous support of various organizations and the citizens of Clark. So if you would like to donate, go right to ourclark.com. You just scroll down on the front page and you'll see the information on where to, what the program's about, the solicitation, and you can bring a check or cash to Town Hall and just note in the notation, make the check out to Clark Township and just note that it's for the Fallen Heroes Project. Thank you.